November 28, 2016, the Chapecoense soccer team boarded their charter flight in Santa Cruz, Bolivia. Filled with hope and excitement, they were just hours away from the biggest match in their club's history. But tragedy struck in the Colombian mountains, changing everything forever.
Now to the tragedy in South America. A soccer team that had won the hearts of Brazil was on its way last night to play for its first championship. But the chartered plane crashed in the mountains of Colombia. 71 were killed. Here's Anna Werner.
This was the scene on board before takeoff. On the way to the biggest game in the club's history, the team is in good spirits. And so is the crew.
November 28, 2016 was supposed to be the greatest moment in Chapecoense's history. The small-town Brazilian soccer team was heading to Colombia for the most important match they'd ever play. On board their chartered flight, you can see them smiling, joking, full of hope as they prepare for the Copa Sudamericana final. But those joyful moments, captured just before takeoff, would soon become the last images of a team that had captured the heart of a nation. The flight, operated by Lamia Airlines, would never reach its destination. As the plane approached Medellin late at night, the pilot calmly reported electrical problems. Then, he made a chilling announcement: total electrical failure and out of fuel. The situation was dire, but his voice remained calm as he requested an emergency landing.
His voice calm, he tells the operator the electrics have failed and he's run out of fuel.
Despite being just 8.2 miles from the runway, the plane was unable to take off. The pilot's final word, captured in the last transmission, was a single desperate plea. The impact was catastrophic. Rescuers arriving at the scene found bodies everywhere. But miraculously, several people at the rear of the aircraft had survived. The devastation was the total shattering of dreams for an entire city in an instant.
Lamentablemente vimos cuerpos por todas partes.
This rescuer said he could hear people crying for help when he arrived at the scene.
Sí, claro, en la parte.
Several people at the rear part survived, he said. It was in fact 6 people, including 3 players.
In Chapeco, the team's home city, fans gathered at the stadium that had been their fortress. The field transformed into a shrine with white flowers, green and white banners, and a sea of tearful supporters. The grief was overwhelming, but so was the solidarity. The investigation revealed a horrifying truth. The aircraft had enough fuel to reach its destination, but not enough for the required 30-minute reserve. The pilot had a chance to refuel in Bogotá, but chose not to. That decision would cost 71 lives, including 19 players, coaching staff, journalists, and crew members. But amidst the tragedy, there were miracles. 3 players survived: defender Alan Ruschel, reserve goalkeeper Jackson Follman, and defender Helio Neto. Their stories would have become symbols of hope in an ocean of despair.
Tem uma mistura de sentimentos, né? Porque tu lembra de todo mundo que estava aqui dentro, né? Tu lembra das festas que a gente fazia, cada vez que a gente passava de fase, cada vitória que a gente conquistava aqui dentro também. E o grupo tava bem fechado, assim, sabe?
Alan Ruschel, one of the survivors, would later return to the field. His miraculous recovery became a testament to the human spirit's resilience. But the physical and emotional scars would never fully heal.
Tem que celebrar e curtir mais a vida, né? Abraçar mais, beijar mais, passar o carinho, né? Fazer tudo em dobro, porque tu não sabe o que vai acontecer.
The world responded with an outpouring of support. Atlético Nacional, the Colombian team they were supposed to face, insisted that Chapecoense be awarded the championship title posthumously. Clubs across Brazil offered to loan players for free, ensuring the team's survival. But perhaps the most heartbreaking moment came from a simple, personal video. Just before the flight, player Thiaguinho learned he would become a father. His teammates captured the moment he received the news, a celebration of life that would never be fulfilled.
Beauty in This video released by Brazilian media shows some of the Chapecoense players surprising their teammate Thiaguinho. Inside the card, his wife had written, "Congratulations, you are going to be a dad for the first time."
The tragedy of Chapecoense wasn't just about a plane crash. It was about dreams built over years, shattered in seconds. It was about a small town's pride, reduced to ashes on a Colombian mountainside. But it was also about the power of community, the strength of solidarity, and the miracle of survival against impossible odds.
Era nossa paixão, né? Esse time, eu acho que é mais do que a despedida é muito triste.
Today, Chapecoense continues to play, rebuilt from the ashes of disaster. But every game is a tribute. Every victory belongs to the 71 who never made it to Medellin. And every fan remembers that day when football lost one of its most inspiring stories, but gained a legend that will never be forgotten. Now, the Chapecoense soccer team's final flight was a heartbreaking loss that shocked the sports world. But tragedy isn't limited to the field. Hollywood faced its own when one of their famous actors' life was cut short in a car crash.
Moments before the crash, it was taken at a fundraiser which he organized. This picture right here.
Just hours before tragedy struck, Paul Walker leaned over the rear of a red Porsche Carrera GT, casually chatting and smiling with his friend Roger Rodas. They were standing at a charity event in Santa Clarita, California, raising funds for victims of Typhoon Haiyan. No one watching that scene could have guessed these were among Walker's final moments.
The crash happened in a business park just a few blocks away, minutes after they left.
Less than 5 minutes after that footage, the Santa Clarita air filled with black smoke as the car became engulfed in flames. The security cameras didn't lie. The Porsche, built for speed and danger, had become a twisted wreck. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but there was little they could do for Walker and Rodas.
A mangled mess on a road in Southern California, which claimed the life of actor Paul Walker. His death has left his fan base across the world in shock. The star of the Fast and Furious movies was a passenger in the red Porsche, which burst into flames when it crashed. He and the driver were pronounced dead at the scene.
The crash site told a devastating story. The Porsche had struck a light pole and 2 trees with such force that the vehicle was nearly split in half. Both men wore seatbelts and the airbags deployed, but it was of no use. Investigators later determined the car had been traveling between 80 and 93 miles per hour in a 45 mph zone. The combination of unsafe speed and aging tires proved fatal.
Investigation into the fiery wreck that killed actor Paul Walker and his friend Roger Rodas. Speed has been cited as a factor in the one-car crash, but the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Authorities quickly confirmed what fans around the world feared. Both Walker and Rodas had died instantly in the fiery crash. The initial investigation ruled out drugs, alcohol, or mechanical failure. There was no evidence of racing, just a terrible accident on a familiar road.
Employees, friends of the shop, we tried.
Witnesses at the scene described the horror of seeing the car fully engulfed in flames. Friends and employees tried desperately to help, but there was nothing anyone could do. The fire was too intense, the damage too severe. The tragic loss hit immediately and deeply.
Fast and Furious co-star Tyrese Gibson was among those who came to the crash scene to grieve today, as stunned friends and fans tried to make sense of the death of an actor that tragically mirrors the movies he made.
As news spread, fans and friends gathered at the crash site. The outpouring of grief was immediate and overwhelming. Flowers, candles, and notes appeared, transforming the area into a memorial. People from all walks of life came to pay their respects to the man who had inspired them both on and off screen.
At the scene and across the world, he will be remembered as a star and for the work of Reach Out Worldwide, which helped victims of natural disasters around the globe.
The loss extended beyond just Walker. Roger Rodas, a respected professional driver and businessman, was remembered as a wonderful man with a kind heart. Both families suffered immense loss that day, forever connected by this tragedy.
Everybody was and saying that he died, and I was thinking it was a hoax because of the way he died and being in the Fast and Furious films. And I'm like, no way, I'm gonna, and not him. He's like one of the celebrities I actually thought was using his fame for good reason.
And the disbelief was palpable. Fans and friends alike struggled to accept the reality of what had happened. It felt impossible that someone so full of life could be gone so suddenly. The emotional weight of the tragedy settled heavily on everyone present. The force of the impact had shattered the Porsche into 3 distinct pieces. Even experienced investigators were shocked by the level of destruction. It was a stark reminder of the dangers that come with high-performance vehicles. Fans from around the world sent messages of love and support. Social media exploded with tributes to Walker's legacy, both as an actor and a humanitarian. His work with Reach Out Worldwide, his generosity, and his kindness were remembered by all who knew him. As police removed the remains of the vehicle, the reality of the situation settled in. This wasn't a movie stunt or special effect. It was a very real tragedy. The film industry lost one of its brightest stars, and a family lost a beloved father, son, and friend. The memorial continued to grow, becoming a place of pilgrimage for fans and friends alike. The impact of Walker's death rippled through Hollywood and across the globe. His legacy, however, would continue to inspire through his films and his charitable work. The tragic irony of Walker's death wasn't lost on anyone. The man who had become famous for his roles in car-centric action films lost his life in a real-world accident. But those who knew him best remembered him not for his on-screen persona, but for the genuine, caring person he was off-camera. From that final footage at the charity event to the worldwide outpouring of grief, Paul Walker's story serves as a sobering reminder of how quickly life can change. His legacy lives on, not just in the Fast and Furious franchise, but in the countless lives he touched through his generosity and compassion. The impact of Walker's death rippled through Hollywood, affecting not just the Fast and Furious family, but the entire industry.
Walker had been on break from filming Fast and Furious 7. Production is now reportedly delayed.
How was that one? The real question is how long they're going to take here to figure out the direction of the film and to make everyone comfortable with coming back to work.
Paul Walker's death showed how fast life can be taken away on the road. But some tragedies don't happen on the ground at all. The next story proved that even the sky isn't always safe.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
On January 28, 1986, it was a frigid morning at Cape Canaveral. The world watched as 7 astronauts prepared for liftoff, including Krista McAuliffe, the first teacher heading to space. The countdown reached 0, engines roared to life, and Challenger climbed skyward, carrying not just crew and payload, but also the hopes of a nation. But beneath the icy veneer, a disaster decades in the making waited for its moment. It became one of the most shocking tragedies in space exploration. The Challenger launch had already been delayed several times due to weather and technical concerns. On the eve of this fatal attempt, temperatures in central Florida dropped so low, ice formed on parts of the launch pad. This was not just unusual, it was unprecedented for a shuttle launch. Yet despite concerns from engineers about the effect of cold on the solid rocket booster's rubber O-rings, the decision was made to proceed.
Challenger, go at throttle up. Roger, go at throttle up.
Challenger's engines roared to full throttle, pushing the spacecraft to its limits. The shuttle surged through the upper atmosphere, reaching maximum aerodynamic pressure, the point of highest stress on the vehicle. On board, the crew executed their checklists, unaware that disaster was seconds away.
A massive explosion. The cheering stops. The horror sinks in.
Just 73 seconds after liftoff, Challenger disintegrated in a catastrophic explosion. The sky filled with a chaotic tangle of smoke trails and debris, marking the shuttle's tragic descent. What had begun as a routine mission became a national nightmare, unfolding live on television screens across America.
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery forces to see what can be done at this point.
The immediate aftermath was chaos. Shocked NASA personnel scrambled to understand what had happened. The world watched in stunned silence as multiple camera angles showed the devastating fireball and the shuttle's 2 solid rocket boosters spiraling out of control. Debris rained down into the Atlantic Ocean.
Obviously a major malfunction.
Across the country, millions of school children who watched the launch live, including Christa McAuliffe's students, were confronted with the reality of spaceflight's dangers. The nation mourned as 7 lives were lost in the pursuit of exploration and knowledge.
But the crew had to sit on the pad for an extra hour, while NASA took a close look at the ice that formed during the night in the freezing temperatures. There was concern that some of that ice could strike the shuttle during liftoff. Finally, after a detailed ice inspection, the word was given, go for launch.
The investigation that followed revealed a tragic combination of technical failure and organizational breakdown. The solid rocket booster O-rings, designed to seal the joints, failed due to the cold, something engineers had warned about. But their concerns were overridden in the push to maintain an aggressive launch schedule.
What we're seeing now is stop-action footage of the mission, just about 1 minute and 11 seconds in. We see the shuttle and 1 of the solid rocket boosters. At this point, a small flame leak is already visible in between. As we roll this ahead in slow motion, another flame leak appears above about 1 second later. Then, scant tenths of a second later, a large clear flame, and then the last massive explosion.
This disaster was not just a technical failure, it was a collapse of communication, priorities, and safety culture. NASA's internal review uncovered a pattern of risk normalization and pressure to meet schedule commitments, despite mounting evidence of design flaws in the solid rocket boosters.
4, 3, 2. About 300 Concord High School students had gathered to watch the launch of their star social studies teacher. It took a minute to realize that what they were watching was a disaster.
Like to hear about it or not?
The human impact was profound. Families, friends, and the nation grieved the loss of 7 brave souls. Commander Dick Scobie, pilot Michael Smith, mission specialist Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, payload specialist Gregory Jarvis, and Christa McAuliffe, the first teacher in space.
Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country.
The president postponed his upbeat State of the Union speech tonight for 1 week and sent Vice President Bush off to Cape Canaveral this afternoon to convey his feelings personally to the families.
President Reagan postponed the State of the Union address, choosing instead to speak directly to the nation. His words acknowledged the loss while reaffirming America's commitment to space exploration. The Challenger disaster became a turning point in spaceflight history. The Rogers Commission investigation led to sweeping changes in NASA's safety culture, management structure, and technical procedures. The Space Shuttle program was grounded for nearly 3 years as safety systems were redesigned and organizational changes were implemented. Despite the tragedy, the Challenger's legacy endured in lessons learned and lives inspired. NASA's return to flight, the improved safety culture, and the continued pursuit of exploration all trace back to that cold January morning. The disaster served as a permanent reminder of the risks inherent in pushing the boundaries of human achievement and the price paid when safety was compromised for schedule or public relations.
Usually the night before, I had the same nightmare that what I saw today, and I thought it was a dream. I was speechless for a few minutes. I knew that explosion shouldn't have happened when it did, and I was holding my breath, and I crossed my fingers as I always do right before the launch. And when I saw the fireball in the sky, I knew no one could have survived that. That'd be the toughest thing I've ever done in my life.
The Challenger crew was honored with memorials across the country, including the Challenger Center for Space Science Education, established by their families to continue inspiring future generations. The disaster became a case study in engineering ethics, risk management, and organizational behavior, taught in universities and professional programs worldwide. By then, remnants of Challenger rested in a missile silo at Cape Canaveral, a silent testament to both the tragedy and the lessons learned. The names of the crew lived on in schools, streets, and even celestial bodies. Asteroids and lunar craters bore their names.
As they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye, and slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God.
What began as a routine launch ended in tragedy. But from the ashes of Challenger rose a renewed commitment to safety, a deeper understanding of risk, and an enduring respect for the men and women who dared to explore the unknown. Their story was woven into the fabric of space exploration, a permanent reminder of both the cost and the value of reaching for the stars. The Challenger disaster showed how fragile even the greatest missions can be. But sometimes tragedy strikes in the most ordinary places, like a simple fan meet and greet that ended in horror.
You wrote me a letter! Is it a letter? Yeah, it's a letter. Okay. Okay, I'll work with Julian.
On the Plaza Live in Orlando, June 10th, 2016, Christina Grimmie was all smiles as she opened her final meet and greet, greeting fans with a warm hug and genuine gratitude. No one present that night could have imagined the tragedy about to unfold just moments later. This seemingly ordinary fan interaction became the last peaceful footage of a rising star whose life would be violently cut short. Christina, just 22 years old, had already built a vibrant career through her YouTube channel, amassing over 3 million loyal followers before captivating The Voice judges in 2014. Her journey from bedroom covers to the national stage was the modern American dream, a dream that came crashing down in an instant. That night after her concert ended, Christina personally thanked each fan, giving out hugs, posing for selfies, and signing autographs. The security at Plaza Live was minimal, with guards in polo shirts, no metal detectors, and only bag checks. The young star was accessible, vulnerable, and unsuspecting.
You wrote me a letter! Is it a letter? Yeah, it's a letter. Okay.
As she engaged with fans, Kevin James Loibl stood in line as just another face in the crowd. He carried 2 handguns, loaded magazines, and a large hunting knife, all legal purchases. His obsession with Christina had grown in secret, unnoticed by family, but recognized too late by co-workers who described his fixation as unhealthy. The joyful meet and greet atmosphere was abruptly shattered. Around 10:30 p.m., Loibl reached the front of the line. Without warning, he pulled out his weapon and fired 3 times, once in the head, twice in the chest. The crowd froze in horror as Christina's brother Mark sprang into action, tackling Loibl. In the struggle, the shooter turned the gun on himself, ending his own life immediately.
Very heroic actions by Marcus Grimmie.
Mark's heroic actions undoubtedly prevented further tragedy. Police later called him a hero for saving countless lives. But for Christina, time was running out. Despite the immediate medical response, Christina was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. She clung to life for just 35 more minutes before succumbing to her injuries. The official cause of death, homicide. Back at the scene, investigators found Loibl's stash of weapons and began piecing together his twisted motives. He had traveled over 100 miles from St. Petersburg to commit this premeditated act, planning to return home afterward, but he never made it back.
3 gunshots went off.
Pop, 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 pop.
I was traumatized. I didn't know what was going on.
I was in shock. I didn't know what to do.
Witnesses described the chaos, the sound of gunfire, the desperate attempts to save Christina, and the realization that something unthinkable had happened. Fans who only wanted a photo or an autograph suddenly found themselves in the middle of a crime scene. The shooting sent shockwaves through the music industry. Social media exploded with tributes from celebrities and fans alike. The Plaza Live canceled all future shows, transforming it into a memorial site covered with flowers and heartfelt messages. Christina's brother, still reeling from the trauma, delivered a moving tribute.
She loved singing, she loved the Lord,
and she loved me. And she was just my baby sister.
The investigation revealed Loibel's disturbing obsession. He watched everything Christina did, convinced himself of a non-existent relationship, and meticulously planned his attack. The dark side of fame had claimed another victim.
Grimmie's death leaving so many performers grief-stricken. Pharrell calling it a tragic loss. Blake Shelton saying he's heartbroken. From Selena Gomez, I miss you, Christina.
The tragedy sparked a national conversation about celebrity security and the dangers of obsessive fans. Experts pointed out the risks of unscreened meet and greets and the delicate balance between accessibility and safety. Adam Levine, Christina's coach on The Voice, covered all funeral expenses and transportation for her family. A GoFundMe campaign raised over $100,000 in support within days.
Life goes on after tragedies, and any tragedy, Christina's tragedy, and everyone is unified by music.
I'm out of touch, I'm out of love.
Vigils were held across the country. Fans and fellow artists came together, unified by music and grief. Christina's legacy became not just her voice, but the outpouring of love and support that followed her senseless death. As investigators searched for answers, one thing became clear. Christina's death wasn't just the loss of a talented young artist. It was a stark reminder of the dangers celebrities faced in an era of unprecedented access and obsession. The Plaza Live eventually reopened, but the memory of that night remained. Christina Grimmie's vibrant spirit lived on through her music, her fans, and the countless lives she touched in her short but impactful journey. And so, the final footage of Christina Grimmie, a young woman full of promise, kindness, and talent, stood as both a celebration of her life and a warning about the very real dangers lurking in the shadows of fame. A fan meet and greet ending in violence was already chilling. But that was not the only tragedy that unfolded in a crowded venue. In our next story, a night of music turned into chaos and disaster. February 20th, 2003, West Warwick, Rhode Island. The Station nightclub was packed with excited fans. Great White took the stage, their opening song just beginning. The crowd was alive, the energy electric. But within seconds, the celebration turned to chaos. Those sparks were supposed to be part of the show. Instead, they unleashed hell. Flames raced across the ceiling. Smoke thickened instantly. At first, the crowd thought it was special effects, but the fire spread fast. Too fast for anyone to process what was happening. Only a few seconds passed before panic took over. The crowd surged to the main entrance, the same door they had all come through. But that narrow hallway, meant for normal nights, became a deadly bottleneck. People pushed, shoved, desperate to escape. The pressure mounted as thick smoke filled every inch of air. Inside, confusion reigned. Some believed it was still part of the act. Others realized the danger but didn't know where to go. The stage door was supposed to be for the band only, but some broke through anyway. Every second counted. The main entrance quickly jammed. Bodies piled up, one on top of another. Some tried side exits, but most people headed for the familiar front door. The smoke became unbearable. Darkness swallowed everything. Outside, chaos spilled into the night. Survivors stumbled into the parking lot. Faces blackened, clothes burned. Some collapsed immediately. Others wandered in shock. Emergency vehicles arrived, sirens piercing the night. Firefighters attacked the blaze, but the building was already consumed. The wooden structure, built decades earlier, became a furnace. Flames shot high, lighting up the night sky. The fire moved so fast it was almost unstoppable. Inside, the true horror continued. Those caught in the bottleneck struggled for air. Some made it out, but most didn't. The smoke was thick, toxic, and deadly. The fire claimed its victims quickly. Outside, witnesses described the chaos. Some saw people escape through windows. Others watched as friends disappeared in the smoke. The scene was one of devastation, injured everywhere, emergency crews scrambling, and families searching for loved ones. The fire department's official report later revealed the speed of the disaster. In just under 6 minutes, the entire building was consumed. The toxic foam, meant for soundproofing, had become a death trap. survivor stories began to emerge. Some described crawling through broken windows. Others told of being pulled out by strangers. Many couldn't speak at all, traumatized by what they had witnessed. Paramedics worked frantically. Burn victims, smoke inhalation, crush injuries, every kind of trauma imaginable. The local hospital was overwhelmed. Other facilities began to receive patients from the scene. By morning, the true scale of the disaster became clear. 100 lives lost, 230 injured. The building is a total loss. The Station nightclub is gone forever. But the investigation was just beginning. Questions swirled about safety codes, fire exits, and the use of pyrotechnics. The community demanded answers. Who authorized the fireworks? Why had flammable foam been installed? Was the club overcrowded?
They did not get permission through our department.
But there are obviously some concerts inside buildings where there are pyrotechnics. What distinguished this from those types of concerts?
I would say the size of the building, the construction of the building, the occupancy of the building.
Now, the fire chief saying that this building just not a building for these type of pyrotechnics.
The blame game started immediately. Club owners denied giving permission for pyrotechnics. The band claimed otherwise. The fire marshal said the building wasn't approved for such displays. Contradictions piled up. Investigators discovered evidence of illegal, highly flammable foam insulation. Safety inspections had missed the danger. Building codes hadn't been enforced. The fatal combination of mistakes became apparent.
This evening, the site will be basically secured. In other words, all of the work in terms of looking for any additional bodies, that will be complete. We have confirmed 7 identifications for certain matched up with families.
The community mourned together. Vigils were held. Families searched for closure. The death toll climbed as victims were identified. The process was slow, requiring dental records and DNA. First responders spoke of the trauma. Many compared it to ground zero after 9/11. The horror of what they had witnessed stayed with them forever. The legal battles began. Criminal charges were filed, civil lawsuits followed. The process dragged on for years, but eventually, some accountability was found. But nothing could restore what was lost. Families were broken. Survivors carried physical and emotional scars. The community was forever changed. The Station nightclub fire forced changes in fire codes nationwide. Sprinkler systems became mandatory in similar venues. Pyrotechnic regulations tightened. Building inspections became more rigorous.
Everyone that's been in the hospital has been identified. Those lists are at the Crown Plaza for the families.
A permanent memorial now stood where the station once had been. Each February 20th, people gathered to remember. The pain never fully faded, but the lessons remained. This tragedy changed fire safety forever. It exposed dangerous gaps in regulations, enforcement, and common sense. The price was steep: 100 lives lost, hundreds injured, countless affected. But from the ashes came new protections, hard lessons learned, and a solemn promise to never let such a preventable disaster happen again. The Station nightclub fire remained one of America's deadliest disasters, not just for the lives lost, but for the hard-won safety changes that followed. Its legacy was written in every fire code, every sprinkler system, every building inspection. And it served as a permanent reminder that complacency killed. Safety wasn't optional, and the cost of ignoring the rules could be catastrophic. Never forget the Station nightclub fire. Never forget the lessons learned, and never let history repeat itself. These were some of the most disturbing footage captured seconds before tragedy struck. Which one shocked you the most? Don't forget to like, comment, and follow for more stories like these.